The biopic ended in 1988, standing on a stage at Wembley Stadium, lights blazing, the crowd going insane. It was the perfect ending. It was also a lie, because Michael Jackson had 21 more years to live, and they were nothing like that night at Wembley. The last chapter of Michael Jackson's life is a story the film deliberately refused to tell you, so let's tell it. The moment the 2005 trial ended not guilty on all 14 counts, Michael Jackson did not celebrate. He left the country. Within days of the acquittal, he flew to Paris with his children and their nanny Grace. Then, he went to Bahrain, where the second son of the king offered him a home, security, and a way out of the spotlight that had been consuming him for over a decade. He stayed there for months. Friends who saw him during the trial said he was unrecognizable. Show director Kenny Ortega, who would later work with him on This Is It, told a jury years later, "I saw a Michael that frightened me." At almost 6 feet tall, Jackson reportedly weighed close to 130 pounds by the end of his life. The man who once defined physical performance was disappearing inside his own body. The reason he couldn't leave was money. Court documents filed by his own estate revealed that when Michael Jackson died in 2009, he had more than $500 million in debt. He owed money to over 65 creditors. He was spending $20 to $30 million more per year than he earned. Neverland, the 2,700-acre ranch he had built as his personal paradise, faced foreclosure in 2008 after he defaulted on a $24.5 million loan repayment. A billionaire named Thomas Barrick stepped in and bought a stake in the property to save it from public auction. Jackson had not toured in 12 years. His last album of original material, Invincible, had come out in 2001. The music industry had moved on without him, and he had no way to stop the bleeding without getting back on stage. After Bahrain, he drifted. Las Vegas for a while, Ireland, then back to Los Angeles. His bodyguards from that period later wrote a book about what they witnessed: a man living in rented houses, moving quietly, rarely going out, raising his 3 children almost entirely alone and in secret. The children never took their masks off in public. They had no normal life. Neither did he. He was Michael Jackson everywhere he went, which meant he was a target everywhere he went, and after the trial, he trusted almost no one. By 2008, the walls were closing in. Lenders were refusing him. Neverland was gone in all but name. And then, a promoter named Egg Live came to him with an offer: 50 concerts at the O2 Arena in London, a full comeback, a chance to show the world he still had it. Jackson agreed. The shows were called This Is It. They sold out in minutes. The tickets generated $85 million before a single note was played. And to manage his chronic insomnia, the condition that had plagued him for years, Egg brought in a cardiologist named Conrad Murray at a salary of $150,000 a month. What Murray did next is what ended everything. According to prosecutors, he built a nightly routine where he administered propofol, a surgical anesthetic meant only for hospital operating rooms, through an IV in Jackson's bedroom to help him sleep. Not once, not occasionally, 6 nights a week, for months. 255 vials were shipped to Murray in the 3 months before Jackson's death. Jackson called it his milk. He begged for it. He told Murray that if he couldn't sleep, he would have to cancel the tour, and he could not cancel the tour because canceling the tour meant financial ruin. On the night of June 24th, Jackson rehearsed at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, a 6-hour dress rehearsal. People who were there said he was extraordinary. He came home after midnight. Murray was waiting. He tried several sedatives through the night. Nothing worked. At 10:40 in the morning of June 25th, he gave Jackson a 25 milligram dose of propofol. Jackson finally fell asleep. Murray then left the room. When he came back, Jackson was not breathing. Instead of calling 911 immediately, Murray called Jackson's assistant, then his own personal security guard. The bodyguard who arrived first later testified that Murray handed him a bag of vials and told him to hide them before calling emergency services. Michael Jackson was pronounced dead at Ronald Reagan UCLA Medical Center at 2:26 p.m. on June 25, 2009. He was 50 years old. He was 18 days away from the first This Is It show. Conrad Murray was convicted of involuntary manslaughter and sentenced to 4 years. He served less than 2. The biopic ends with Michael Jackson on top of the world. The truth ends in a rented bedroom in Los Angeles, with a doctor hiding vials and nobody calling for help. That's the story Part 2 is going to have to decide whether it's brave enough to tell.